Lewis says that we used to speak of our rulers, while today we want to refer to them as leaders. So the word leader is actually being used as a diluting agent, and the thing being diluted is authority. Welcome to Man Rampant. I'm Douglas Wilson. C.S. Lewis says somewhere, and I think it might be in English literature in the 16th century, that there has been a great shift in how we describe our cultural leaders. And when I was making that reference just now, I was deferring to our more contemporary usage. Lewis says that we used to speak of our rulers, while today we want to refer to them as leaders. And we naturally think that we understand why our shift is much to be preferred. The word ruler sounds dictatorial, autocratic, like some kind of bossy pants. A good leader, on the other hand, knows how to listen, how to shape consensus, how to go where we tell him, in other words. Egalitarianism is in the water, and individualism is in the air. We are yet another example of how fish don't feel wet. Now, some might object, saying that a shift in usage like this doesn't really signify anything. Really? Let's take a very popular phrase in Christian circles, change a few words back, and see what happens. Everybody likes the phrase servant leadership, and if anyone starts to exhibit any nervousness about it, we can just hammer them with the texts about the glory of servanthood. The New Testament is crammed with them. But what if the objection is not the service, which the Lord Jesus modeled for us, but rather to the concept of leaders, which we don't find in the Bible anywhere? Let me illustrate. Suppose some hapless chump of a conference speaker decided to advertise a seminar on how husbands could become quote-unquote servant rulers. And suppose we pack into the word servant everything that the New Testament has on it. That word ruler still sticks in our craw. Such a conference speaker, or at least his marketing director, would be run out of town on a rail. Or suppose we decided to imitate Sarah and the holy women of old, and we started calling what evangelical husbands are supposed to model for their wives as something like servant lordship. Now there's a sense in which servant leaders and servant rulers and servant lords could all be referring to the same thing. But when we put it that way, they plainly are not. So the word leader is actually being used as a diluting agent, and the thing being diluted is authority. Jesus washed his disciples' feet, that's true. But he also, in a way entirely consistent with his decision to wash their feet, commanded them and exercised complete authority over them. What about that part? Well, that part is actually the problem part. But because we are evangelical Christians, we want it to look as though we are obeying the Bible. We want it to seem like we have no problem with the Pauline doctrine of headship and submission. And so we quote those verses out loud in sermons and everything. But perhaps, and I think it is more than a perhaps here, perhaps we have actually redefined everything. Perhaps the patriarchal emphasis of the Scriptures is Lefroy straight out of a charred oak barrel, and complementarianism is no duels, but with a scary label on the bottle. Discuss among yourselves.